It's time for a Humans in Tune conversation with Darren on 93.9 Mike FM.
Yes, indeed, it is time for another Humans in Tune segment. Darren Bergfeld in the air chair with you, and today's special guest is Julie DeLucca-Collins. Julie is an author, a coach, a mentor, an amazing human being, and I'm so glad to have you with me here today, Julie. Thanks for hanging out.
Darren, thanks for letting me hang out. I love great conversations in the middle of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And, what we try to do here is, bring some people to our viewers, to our listeners that, they may not necessarily run into in the normal scheme of human life here in America's heartland. And, repurpose that on the internet for good reason. But, I'm excited to talk to you. It's a new year. I am not one to make resolutions because I don't like to disappoint myself that early in the year. But, we talk about wanting to make changes and wanting to improve upon ourselves or upon our business or our entrepreneurship that we're digging our heels into. And a lot of people, as COVID has come out, a lot of people found in themselves the ability to come up with a business idea and maybe start something and kind of get things rolling. But, those of us who don't put it into practice on a daily basis might find ourselves a little overwhelmed by that process. And I think, you've done a lot to help people get over that hump and find that path and be able to pursue that dream. And I think that's amazing.
Well, I am, just so thrilled to have this conversation because this is my favorite type of conversation. And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people who are overwhelmed already on the 10th of the year. And I want to say to this friend that is sitting there like, I messed up. I can't believe this or whatever it is that creating new habits doesn't have to be hard and that behavioral change really happens when you feel good. So if you're beating yourself up, it is going to be a little more challenging for you to create a shift, begin something new, or incorporate a new habit into your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, my big habits for this year, is just, health. But one of the little tiny habits I want to make is something that I've tried to do in the past but haven't, is when I go to the store, go to get groceries, come to work, I park farther away. Just that little extra walking time for a little extra exercise. That's my tiny habit.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And you're setting yourself up for success. And you are speaking my favorite language, which is tiny habits. Yeah. And for those people who don't know, Tiny Habits is a book by Dr. B.J. Fogg, who is the director and the founder of the Behavior Lab at Stanford University. And he's been studying habits and behavior change forever. And really, there's a couple things that you do. One is you parked far, right? When you got to the grocery store, that's your anchor moment. And then you parked far. And then the next step that I'm not sure if you're doing, but will help you create this habit and really solidify it is make yourself feel good by saying, good job, Darren. You parked far. Good job. Pat on the back or give yourself a high five or a thumbs up. And that helps to solidify the habit. But starting tiny is really the best way for you to be able to make substantial and continuous change. But most of us really want to go big and go home. And that's not going to work.
Right. And rudimentarily speaking, what you said right there, that little affirmation of good job, self. You did what you were supposed to do. I mean, look at it with any sort of tiny training we do in our life. You're training a puppy not to pee on the floor. Good job, puppy. Here's a treat. Bad job,
that's
puppy, otherwise. So, it's the same thing for us. And that's, we can get those habits. And like you said, a little bit, it makes me think of the What About Bob movie with Richard Dreyfuss.
Yes.
The baby steps to the door, baby steps to the boat. Come on, Bob, let's go, but it's the same kind of concept in its very base amount there. Now, you're applying this to folks in their life through their business, through their entrepreneurship. You've got a pretty amazing podcast that anybody can go right now and tune into and listen to. Casa de Confidence. I like the title. Flows well.
Thank you.
But yeah, you're popping up a new podcast, about every week or so, yeah?
Every week. We have been consistent, and I really have to give credit to my producer and husband and co-host, Dan, who really makes it happen because honestly, I show up and I talk to people, but he helps with the technology. And this is the thing that, for many of us, we get overwhelmed with the things that are not easy for us, but ultimately it's very important to be able to just partner with the people that are going to support you. And I have a motto, and I've been using this. I heard it from, believe it or not, my parish priest, back when I was in high school, and it's stuck with me all these years. Do what you do best and delegate the rest.
Ooh,
and I think that this is the other thing where a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or even individuals who are looking to adopt a new behavior into their life that is not native to them, or maybe a skill or starting a business, whatever it might be, we're new at everything. And we have to remind ourselves that we are beginners, and it is okay that we are going to flop, that we are going to fall. And failure is our first step in learning. And second, find the people that can support you through the process or cheer you on or give you accountability. And they're going to be every step of the way with you. And that makes the process and, the journey a little more doable and more successful too.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, your partner in success there, that's it. You've got somebody on your side that says, yeah, this is your skill set. This is where you shine. This is where I shine. And together, then you both succeed from that. So, and your podcast varies all over the topics. One caught my eye because I've got a 14-year-old daughter who's an awesome kid. I want to brag on her all day long, but you've got one here recently from December on how to raise strong girls and be a strong woman in the process. Man, moms with teenage daughters, you know how that fight can go. So I know you're leading folks in the right direction because you want the best relationship possible. I mean, how many women look back at, oh, mom and I used to get at each other so bad and now we're best friends, so start that a little earlier, right? But,
I love that you talk about Carmelita Chu, who is the podcast host of Be Them, Raise Them, and Be Them. But she was a guest on the show. And really one of the things that we really talk about is that in order specifically for women, right, to become whatever the next thing or the goal or the dream is, that we have to really be able to see others who have seen that. And for many years, we weren't seeing that. And it's very important to create the conversations around support. And also the other thing is that we have to talk about the difficult conversations that sometimes, I know that my mom, she was pretty progressive, but there were things that she still kind of shied away from.
Sure.
Even now she was visiting, and she's going to turn 80 in a month. And she just shies away from certain conversations, but I had to go out and figure it out on my own. But if we are able to bite the bullet now and have difficult conversations with our teenagers, then we're normalizing things and we are allowing them to also be curious.
Well, you're removing the taboos off of some things that really don't need it,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's really, what I aim is to have conversations with, I call it, amazing women and cool dudes who come in and chat about all the different things, because we live in a world where we see everybody's highlight reel. And it's important to be able to talk about what happens in the back of the house or underneath the water
when the makeup's off.
When the makeup is off. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's important.
For certain. Now, one quote that I took from your website in talking about you coaching people is, you said, when I see women feel confident doing what they love, I know I'm living my purpose. Obviously, what you do in a day-to-day basis, you feel is a calling to you. And you've been able to succeed with that. With those folks who feel that calling and want to succeed, what's the next step for someone to talk to you or to contact you to really dig in on this and hone in on success?
The first step is just really figuring out, number one, what is it that you are looking to do? Right. And then even if I am not the right fit, I love to just talk to people and connect them, if not me, with the person who is the person, because ultimately we have to really be able to figure it out. And sometimes we don't even know what we want to do. You said that, I have found my purpose, and I really did. And a lot of people I find, and this is a little bit of the research that I'm doing for my second book, is that purposeful you. We don't always know. We don't always know because we've been so conditioned to listen to the voices of other people or of society, of the shoulds or the coulds or you would, but we're not listening to our own internal compass. Yeah. And it's very important to maybe just have a conversation and get curious and open up. And that's what I'm excited to be able to do for individuals. So people can always reach out to me. I'm Julie DeLucca-Collins on all of the socials, but on my website, you can book a 15-minute call and we can chat, have coffee, tea, or if it's after hours, we can always have an adult beverage and talk, chat and get to know each other and find out what you're looking to do. What are your passions? What do you feel your purpose is? Because in conversation, you can dig in a lot to these things and figure it out.
Yeah, that face-to-face time or that, that connection, that's hard to beat. I mean, you can fill out a form questionnaire and ask all kinds of things about it, but it's so hard to narrow down. And a lot of that conversation is just inflection and body language, that unspoken communication that you pick up off somebody that says, man, they're passionate about this, but I feel like there's something else here that, that's digging in on the back end. Speaking of confidence, your first book was called Confident You. It's bestseller, Simple Habits to Live the Life You've Imagined. I'm very happy to say that I feel like I'm in a job that I was meant to be in. I love what I do every day. Get to have great conversations with people. But a lot of us did find ourselves uprooted during COVID and finding these new positions and so forth. So it's wonderful that you're out there, kind of providing that leadership, that guidance in the wilderness to get through it. Because you're right. We do get a lot of maybe different conversations. And I think you referenced like throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping it sticks, like, oh, well, this worked. And now I'm going to do more Facebook advertising, or I'm going to do more radio advertising, or I'm, going to do this, going to do that. Different businesses require different things. And so having the guidance to, know where to best place your assets and to realize what will help make you succeed versus what's going to just kind of keep things humming along. Everybody wants to grow, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Now it doesn't have to be that complicated either. You got these simple habits, these tools by your side for your business, but just also for your day-to-day life. So many little habits can really change the big picture of what you got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I like to say is that we can become the CEO of our life and business. Many of us, and like I said, we're listening to somebody else's expectations and voices and plan for our lives. And the same thing happens when we're starting a business or even in our careers. We are not necessarily clear of what is that we want. And one of the things that I really like to use are habits to allow individuals to kind of step into that role, into the role in which they are responsible. They're also aware of what they want. They're also willing to be uncomfortable and to take the steps, because that's what happens with a CEO, right? A CEO knows what do they want to accomplish, what is the mission, the vision. They're the visionary. They're the ones that are thinking big picture, but they're also the ones that are allowing to create a strategic plan for daily implementation of what happens in a business, what happens in a company, and the same thing can happen in our lives. This is the perfect time at the beginning of the year for you to really be able to say, what is it that on December 31st of 2023, as I look back through my year, what are the things that I wanted to accomplish? And what does it mean that if I wanted to, like you said, right? Some of us want to get in shape. So what does that mean? What does it look like on a daily basis? So I'll give you an example. Right before I jumped into this call, I jumped on my treadmill, which is right over there. And I didn't run. I was not doing an extraneous exercise, but if I am going to be the person that it's in better shape in a year from now, it means that I'm going to walk, and I'm not going to make it hard. I'm not going to wait for the right time or to have the right outfit on to go work out, but I'm going to just jump in that treadmill for 2 minutes because I had 7 minutes before I jumped into this call. So those are the decisions that a CEO does for their life, right? They go and they say, you know what? Let's make it work. I'm going to squeeze in that in there. And that is going to then create a snowball effect, because once I jumped on that treadmill, I'm like, oh, good job, Julie. You did it. 3 minutes in there. Get it done. And that's more than I did yesterday. Yesterday I did 2 minutes, and then tomorrow, hopefully I'll do 5, and you keep growing the momentum. But if your goal is always to at least jump in the treadmill for a couple minutes and celebrate that, this is the tiny habits method.
Right.
You are then going to be so effective, and you can celebrate that you hit your goal. Yep. You're not hitting the goal of like, I'm going to run for an hour, or I'm going to try to squeeze that in, because when you're trying to do something that you weren't doing yesterday, you're going to fail, and then you're going to feel bad, and then you're not going to be able to keep going forward.
And I can see, you're self-affirming here and just talking about this. It's like, and yesterday I did more minutes today than I did yesterday. So pat on the back to me. And that's exactly how, you'll never see a CEO going, yeah, that's my couch and that's where I always sit. And that's why it's worn in, because they're not worn in people. They're not comfort zone people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not lunatics, but they are visionaries. They're always stepping into the uncomfortable. They're the ones that are the first one on the retreat to step into the ice bath. You know what I mean? So
absolutely,
they're the ones
absolutely.
that are, hitting that uncomfortable spot. But by that uncomfortableness, that's how we grow.
That is how we grow. And the thing is, for many years in my life, and I want to be clear that this is not something that it's always been easy for me, but it's become more of a habit, of a norm. For many years of my life, I avoided the discomfort of things. And what I found is that it's choose your pain, right? I hated that. I hated where I was. I hated what I wasn't doing. I hated who I was becoming. And it's either the discomfort of the comfortable or the discomfort of the new thing that you're going to do.
Yeah.
And then choose based on what you envision. And that's really what's going to propel you forward and what's going to help you.
That's absolutely right. And most of us envision success and better things than just staying in there and letting the moss grow.
Right. And it's about awareness too, because sometimes we may not necessarily, see, oh, I'm going to make 7 figures or I'm going to write a book. We may not see that, but we know that, I don't like just sitting on this couch. I don't like this want kind of life. Something is missing, something is wrong. But the more that you decide, you know what, I'm going to maybe sit for a minute and journal for maybe 1 minute. I'm going to write all my thoughts. Right. Or maybe I'm going to tune into YouTube and listen to an inspirational show like yours, or go on social media or listen to a podcast, whatever it is. And you can start to say, oh, that's a little different. That's a little different. Have you ever driven home through a different route from what you normally do?
Yeah.
That is one of the greatest things that you can do, because you're challenging your brain. And the same thing, I want to encourage your listeners and the viewers, that you don't have to make a big change, but you can just decide, you know what, I'm going to sit in that chair rather than this one. I'm going to do that instead of this. And then you're going to start to say, well, you know what, maybe this is a better view of the outdoors, or maybe this is something different. And that's really going to be able to help us go forward in that direction to our dreams, to a better life, to improving ourselves.
Yep. And those tiny habits and that tiny little bit of uncomfortable, like you said, at the end of the year on December 31st, and you're toasting a glass and you look back at 2023, you're going to say, man, it really didn't hurt. And here I am, I've successfully done ABC and I've transformed this, and, and whatever that goal was that you shot for by the end of the year, you look back and say, we made it. And it was those tiny little steps to get there.
Yeah. And what I want to encourage too, the people who are tuning in, is that it's not about the perfection of it, because I'm going to tell you that there's going to be a day somewhere in the year that I am not going to jump on that treadmill.
Yeah.
But it's about the progress, and it's about focusing on, if you fall off the wagon, if you missed a day, begin again with saying, okay, that's in the past. We can't control the past. We can't go back and change that. All we have the power to is what our next best thing is, what our next best step, and how we are going to choose to move forward from the time in which maybe we stumble.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And with the confidence that you set in initially, and with a great support system behind you, you're able to accomplish those little steps. And it's a great way
100%.
to comp it all.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Julie, I appreciate your time today. It's been great talking with you. I want to encourage everybody to hit your website. We've had it scrolling on the bottom of the screen here the whole time, but swing by the website. Be sure to follow your social media and go listen to those podcasts too. And once you dive in, make that a tiny habit to listen to one of Julie's podcasts every week, and catch the new ones when they come out. But it's been such a pleasure having you. I thank you so much for taking the time with me today.
Darren, thank you so much for having me. You are doing some incredible work, and thank you so much for highlighting individuals that are from all different kinds of life so that people can really connect. You are definitely living in your purpose, and thank you so much. And don't forget, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Amen to that. GoConfidentlyCoaching.com. You can find Julie on the web and on a social. And again, appreciate you for coming in. It's another Humans in Tune segment here on 93.9 Mike FM. We'll let you know when the next one is swinging through. In the meantime, be sure to share this video out from the Facebook page and catch us on the podcast at 939 Mike FM every time we do a Humans in Tune. For Darren and for Julie, we will see you next time. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks for catching this Humans in Tune conversation with 93.9 Mike FM. Find previous interviews on our Facebook page, or you can listen via our podcast at 939mikefm.com.